How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. It's Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain from coast to coast. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, very happy to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about New York, and I feel a little foolish talking about New York because I have long maintained I don't particularly care about what happens in New York City, but I realize in so saying that the rest of you care greatly about New York City. Now, I don't. It's not that I mind or don't mind New York City. I actually like New York City. One of my favorite shops in America is in New York City. You will not be surprised to learn that in New York you can find pretty much everything. They have a bookstore on the Upper East Side on Lexington Avenue called Kitchen Arts and Letters, and you can find virtually any cookbook ever published in that bookstore. I mean, you can find cookbooks going back to the 1600s in that bookstore. And as you may know, if you're a regular listener, I have an obsessive collection of cookbooks. I've got hundreds of cookbooks. My wife and kids are like, Dad, do you think you should get rid of them? Absolutely not. Cookbooks are knowledge. My kids occasionally try to buy me a cookbook, and I'm like, I've already got that one. I'm sorry. At some point, I need to make a list of all my I have a ton of cookbooks. I've got old church cookbooks. That's one of the things I like to collect is old church and junior league cookbooks because you can find just gems of recipes in there. In fact, there are several very prominent people who have made their claim to fame on Food Network and elsewhere, and their claim to fame is really they took old church and potluck cookbooks and spiced up the recipes, spiffed them up, and claimed them as their own, and that's how they became famous. Now I just take their recipes, do the same thing. By the way, I'm working on a cookbook. Yeah, might as well. I mean, I got so many, I might as well produce one of my own. Nonetheless, I like New York. I like being able to walk. The museums are fantastic. The shops are great. They've got, now I forget the name of it, but they've got a shop in New York where it's like 10 stories, and it's like everything you ever need for your kitchen. On one store, it's the bed linens. On the next floor, it's the actual beds. On the next, it's the forks and the knives and the kitchenware stuff, and then you get the outdoor stuff. And on it's incredible stuff. But also in New York City, it's New York. And I forgot when I was up there a couple of weeks ago that there's no such thing as a quiet night's sleep. I was in a very nice hotel on a very high floor, and even then got woken up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning by the trash trucks and the light coming out. It's a loud city. It's a pretty city with architecture. It's an obnoxious city. But I like New York. I would never want to live there. And walking around Manhattan, you really don't feel unsafe. And that's the thing is that I think a lot of people who don't live in New York, when you hear the stories of crime in New York, it's typically not around. There are certainly places in Central Park you don't want to go and around Central Park, but by and large, if you're walking Fifth Avenue near Central Park or whatever, you're probably going to be harassed by a homeless person, which are everywhere, but you're probably not going to get mugged or shot. But you venture into certain parts of the city, and there are definitely certain parts of the city that are very unsafe. And Bill de Blasio was a mayor who expanded the criminal enterprise in New York, not him being a part of it, just allowing it to fester, being soft on crime. And now the Democratic Socialists are pushing Zoran Mamdani. Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, not very popular. He is headed out. Was trying to run as independent. He lost the Democratic primary, doesn't have the support, corruption issues, among other things, and he's decided to withdraw. Now that leaves in place Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Silva. Curtis Silva is the Republican candidate. He's famous in New York City, a famous personality. He's got a radio show. He's been involved with the Guardian Angels. He is very famous for wearing his beret. He's a people person. He loves the city. He's not getting out of the race. He's not getting out of the race because he feels called to run to provide an alternative vision. Andrew Cuomo can't get him out of the race. Donald Trump can't get him out of the race. And so Andrew Cuomo, instead of complaining about Curtis Silva's state of the race, needs to figure out how to win, and he can't because Andrew Cuomo ran a terrible primary campaign. The amount of research that he left out about Zoran Mamdani was it was campaign malpractice what his campaign did. So now, having lost the primary, he's running as an independent, and his election message is basically, I know I killed your grandmother, but he's going to kill New York City. Vote for me. It's not a very compelling message. My buddy Corey DeAngelis has obtained a email from a Democratic Socialists of America convention delegate, saying that the socialists, Sliwa, thank you. I'm sorry, I was saying Silva. Curtis Sliwa, thank you. Just got a text message from her saying it's Curtis Sliwa. I appreciate. I'm not from New York. I'm sorry. Y'all try to pronounce it Chaffalai and Chapatulas when you get to New Orleans. Curtis Sliwa. Well, Corey DeAngelis has an email from a senior member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and they're freaking out that Zoran Mamdani might actually win. This is a direct quote. The left, meaning DSA, is not ready to govern New York City. The second worst thing that could happen would be a win. The first would be finishing last. When the Democratic Socialists of America endorsed Zoran, most of us did not expect him to win. We thought he would be a credible spokesperson for our platform and that we could build the DSA. We also recognized in soft indoor voices that the left is not ready to govern the city. One leader of the chapter whispered the second worst thing that could happen would be to win. The first would be finishing last. That's right. They're afraid that Zoran Mamdani, the left, is that he can win. And by the way, he's going to win at this point. Andrew Cuomo is just the fact that Andrew Cuomo thinks that if only Curtis Sliwa will get out of the race, a man who has by the way, I don't know Curtis at all, but I know people who know Curtis, and the man has spent his entire life dedicated to trying to improve the city. And a lot of people know him. Now, they're not going to vote for him because he has an R next to his name, but they don't hate the man. He's actually got high positive ratings in New York. He's considered a bit of a crank by the Manhattanites who aren't going to vote for him. But that Andrew Cuomo needs everyone else to get out of the race to even have a shot is not a damning indictment on Curtis Sliwa. That is an indictment on Andrew Cuomo that he is incapable of doing it. He should have finished Mamdani off in the primary, but he had an absolutely terrible primary run. He's not going to be able to do it. And Mamdani's going to win. And what the socialists are starting to recognize is that Mamdani is so far left. By the way, did you know that Mamdani's father, who is a radical leftist college professor, has written in defense of suicide bombings as a legitimate political tactic? And I quote, "We need to recognize the suicide bomber first and foremost as a category of soldier. Does not the suicide bomber join both aspects of our humanity, particularly as it has been fashioned by political modernity, in that we are willing to subordinate life, both our own and that of others, to objectives we consider higher than life? Suicide bombing needs to be understood as a feature of modern political violence rather than stigmatized as a mark of barbarianism. The danger of a moral discussion by itself, how can any culture condone suicide, is that it quickly turns into a replay of culture talk, stereotyping individuals and preventing any deliberation about alternative strategies. You got that? It's just a legitimate tactic of resistance. Mamdani himself is absolutely incapable of condemning Hamas. And he now is talking about how he wants to use taxpayer resources to buy private property, to convert the private property into community property for anybody to live in. John Catsimatidis owns WABC in New York. He's a billionaire who bought a radio station. He's actually turned it into a dominant talk force in New York. He also owns grocery stores. They are popular, nice, pricey grocery stores. Mamdani has decided he wants to start citywide socialist grocery stores. Now, you need to go back in the Wayback Machine. Back in, I think it was 1993, when Bill Clinton's first year in office, Boris Yeltsin, the president of Russia, the first president after the fall of the Soviet Union, came to the United States. And they took Yeltsin to a grocery store. Yeltsin and his entire team thought it was a con job. Yeltsin and his entire team, they had Soviet grocery stores, the sort that Mamdani wants for New York City. And Yeltsin and his entire team thought that the Americans were pulling the wool over his eyes and that this grocery store wasn't real, that it was staged. So they took him to another one. And then they took him to another one. His team was overwhelmed. They had never seen American grocery stores before. You know, it's Bernie Sanders who laments the varieties of deodorant and toothpaste that you, as an American, have available to you. In Russia, it's one size fits all. That's what Mamdani wants. Mamdani wants to defund the police. He said so himself repeatedly. Now he's danced around it because he doesn't want to spook people. Mamdani believes that we need alternatives to policing. And he can't condemn Hamas. He is a socialist. He will bring socialism to New York City. And now here's the kicker. San Francisco is moving back to the right. Now, San Francisco is never going to be a conservative place. It's never going to be run by conservative Republicans. But San Francisco has moved to the right because of the failures of the socialists in San Francisco. The Asian moms are scared enough for their children that they're starting to vote for moderate Democrats instead of far-left wackadoo Democrats. The city ousted its far-left George Soros-funded prosecutor, DA. They put somebody else in a recall effort. They have reformed their school board. They got tired of the far left. New York is now headed in San Francisco's direction. There's a fundamental difference, though, and you have to understand this difference. Lester Holt of the NBC Nightly News does not live in San Francisco. He lives in New York. So, too, do the anchors of the CBS and the ABC Nightly News. David Muir and his family live in New York City. Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper and Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski and all the other other than Wolf Blitzer lives in D.C. The morning crew at CNN, the major crew for the New York Times, the major media outlets for America beyond Fox News, they all live in New York City. They can pretend that what is happening in San Francisco is isolated. They will not be able to pretend in New York City. Many of them will find a way to excuse it. Many of them, the hard leftists in the media, they're going to pretend it's some sort of Mecca. Now, those people never actually go to where the non-white people live. So on MSNBC, you're never going to see Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes head to Harlem or the Bronx or parts of Queens. They're going to stay in Manhattan and their cabins up in Vermont. They're never going to see it. They're never going to acknowledge it. But a lot of the reporters who think that the far left is good are going to see how those policies play out in New York City and how the city begins to decline. I personally think Mamdani getting elected is a good thing. Give New York City what it wants, good and hard. It will probably shift Long Island to the right. It will shift New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania to the right. They share common media markets with New York City. You're going to see people in these other places react to Zohran Mamdani's policies in New York City by shifting to the right in their own cities, in their own states. They're not going to want what New York is prescribing. They will have the cascading criminal spillover effects, the drug spillover effects, the illegal alien spillover effects. And they're not going to have the money to cover it. Having Mamdani become the face of the Democratic Party in New York City, it's going to be terrible for New York City. But it's going to be great for the rest of America to serve as a reminder of what happens when you go full socialist.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So my agent, John, he lives down in Vero Beach, listening on 105.7 WTTB down there, and is correct. He's not from New York, but worked there for so long. He's correcting my pronunciation. So it's Curtis Sliwa, and it's John Katzimatidis. I've always called it Katsimatis. Now I know. I'm not from New York City. I want to jump in here real quick. Well, I don't have time looking at the clock. When we come back, I'm sure it'll still be going on. The President of the United States and Benjamin Netanyahu are just stepping up to the podium to take some questions from the crowd there. They have been meeting, and Benjamin Netanyahu called the Qatari Prime Minister and apologized for the bombing of the building in Qatar that killed a Qatari security officer, and it turns out did not eliminate all of the Hamas leadership. They thought that it did, and it turns out they did not eliminate all of the Hamas leadership like they thought. So black eye for Israel, and the president got Netanyahu to call and apologize to the prime minister while they were sitting in the Oval Office together. Now this press conference begins. They'll be talking when we come back. I will jump to it when we get back after this break. Right now, I need to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them. Save $200. Get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3. If you go to EdenPureDeals.com, you'll see a discount code box on the front page of the website. You put in ERICK, the number 3, no space. You can get 3 of them, save $200. They are an air purifier, so they wipe out dust and pollen and pet dander. They kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses that flow through the device, generating plasma to do so. And then they generate ozone that goes out into the air of the room and wipes out every odor. No odor can stand up to ozone. It's the way ozone works when it comes into contact with the ionized particles you and I call odors. So dirty diaper odors, litter box odors, wet dog odors, frying shrimp in the kitchen odors, musty odors. It wipes them all out. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. You put in the discount ERIC3. You get one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV, wherever wherever you need them. They're small, highly portable. You can use a USB cord to power them or plug them into the wall. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, America. It's Eric Erickson here. I want to jump to the White House. The President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel are in the East Room of the White House having a press conference. Let's listen in on some of that.
Erdogan is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader. Prabowo, he is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this. The pact, it just came out just as I was walking around. They said, sir, you have a big notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015 and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. But I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you in many cases they're great men and some great women too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. But if accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons, production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're just seeing right now, in particular in and around Gaza. With the new transitional authority in Gaza, all parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully, as progress is made toward achieving these goals. Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great Vice President, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close. But it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone understands that the ultimate result must be the elimination of any danger posed in the region, and that danger is caused by Hamas. The tyranny of terror has to end, and this is, again, something that we're looking for. This is eternity. This is for forever.
Let me jump in here now, just so you guys have points of this, because I just got this from the White House and want to be able to read this to you. These are the president's plans. There are 20 points here from the president. 1, Gaza will be a de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. 2, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. 3, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to an agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended. Battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. 4, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive or deceased, will be returned. 5, once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. 7, upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, including water, electricity, and sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. 8, entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies and the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January 19th agreement. 9, Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people of Gaza. The committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts who oversee and supervise a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals, including the 2020 peace plan of Donald Trump and the Saudi-French proposal. 10. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. 11. A special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. 12. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. 13. Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military terror and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapons production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. This will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program. 14. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with the obligations and that a new Gaza poses no threat. 15. The United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. 16. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israeli Defense Force will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, the ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza no longer posing a threat to Israel. 17. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. 18. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try to change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits of peace. 19. While Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is fully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood. 20. The United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. That is the 20-point plan unveiled by the President of the United States, agreed to by Benjamin Netanyahu. They are now waiting on Hamas to see if Hamas will take the deal. If Hamas takes the deal, all hostages, living and dead, will be turned over. If Hamas does not take the deal, the United States will arm Israel to destroy the last remnants of Hamas. That's the ultimate final plan here. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of Gaza. Gaza will be de-radicalized. Hamas will cease to exist. And all the current members of Hamas who lay down their weapons will get amnesty. An international peacekeeping force, essentially led by the United States and its Arab partners, will teach policekeeping skills to the Palestinians to be able to maintain order in that area. If this goes forward, it's a very big deal. If. And I say if because it is not a guarantee. Now, I want to juxtapose two things for you. One, right now, happening at the White House, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel are discussing a peace plan for Gaza. While this is happening, at this very moment in New York City, the president of Iran is speaking to the UN General Assembly with the faces of people it claims have been killed by Israel and denouncing Israel. So you have two competing things happening. The world is watching the president of the United States and Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House announce a plan for peace in the Middle East, while the president of Iran is at the same time denouncing Israel on stage at the United Nations. It's a fascinating juxtaposition in the image. In fact, here's the president of Iran right now.
Healthcare. Those who have perpetrated such crimes
There's a pause.
This
for the
nation,
translator.
with a magnanimous spirit and the systematic targeting of journalists and members of the press, and the killing of human beings who solely by the reason of their knowledge and expertise are converted into military targets.
You got that? He's denouncing Israel at the United Nations, claiming Israel is willfully targeting members of the press, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, while the president is announcing peace in Gaza, at least a plan. Now, we will see, given what the president of Iran is saying at the United Nations while the president of the United States is speaking, is it going to be possible to get this peace deal done? Will Iran promise to fund Hamas to avoid a peace deal happening? We're going to find out. The next 24 hours is going to be very interesting on the international stage. But the president of the United States is attempting to thread a needle and get peace in the Middle East, in Gaza, with Israel and the return of all the hostages.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, the President of the United States, still speaking with Netanyahu, answering questions about this plan in Gaza. There is a level of skepticism that exists out there just because no one's really attempted this before, and Hamas has not agreed to do anything like this ever. So it raises the question of why would they agree now? Well, I think part of the reason is because the president of the United States is saying for the first time, if Hamas does not agree to this, Hamas will be destroyed, absolutely wiped out. Now, the corollary is that if Hamas agrees to the plan, they will be voluntarily defanged. Their weapons will be taken away. They will be wound down. They will be taken out of control of the government of Gaza, but they will live. So the question is, does Hamas want its members to live? And let's be clear here, they're going to still be terrorists and work for terrorism. Or does Hamas want to be wiped off the map? There have been lots and lots of rumors that the president of the United States has gotten very frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu. A lot of rumors. Nothing confirmed, but a lot of rumors. Today, it looks like these two men are hatching a plan for peace in the Middle East that could pay real dividends for the people of Gaza, benefiting the people of Gaza, giving them peace finally and a relief from Hamas, which has not only controlled Gaza but killed anyone who dared speak out against them. This could be a profound shift for Gaza, and there's buy-in from Pakistan, from Indonesia, from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, from Jordan. All the major players in the Muslim world are buying into President Trump's 20-point plan. They see the potential benefit for themselves if this goes through. We'll see. Now I got to tell you about Hillsdale College. They would love to offer you a free class. They've got 40 for you to choose from. Depending on the class, depends on the number of episodes of the class. Now, what do I mean by episodes? Well, the classes are video lectures, and they're 30-minute episodes, and some classes have 10 episodes, some have 7. It depends on which class you take. They're all highly informative. It's not indoctrination, it's education, and they would love to have you on board. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com, you can pick the class of your choice from Hillsdale College, sign up with Hillsdale, take the class, and in taking the class, you learn, and you don't pay a penny. You don't pay a penny. You pick the class you want, you take it, you watch the lectures, you get a certificate of completion when you're done, and you never have to pay a penny, and you learn whether it's the Federalist Papers or about C.S. Lewis or Shakespeare or the founding of our republic or the founding of the Roman Republic or basics of economics or chemistry or math. Go to ericforhillsdale.com today and sign up.